Hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm diving into Lockwood and Co. Yes, that's right, it's the YA young adult adaptation of the Jonathan Stroud series by Joe Cornish. Yes, he is the guy behind Attack the Block, and it was and remains one of the coolest one-season wonders of the Netflix era. Yes, they cancelled it. Critics and the audiences, the fan base, loved it unanimously, and yet it was decided because it didn't get the audience, it didn't have the legs in the opening season, they were going to cut the knees off it and it was going to be no more. So let's start off with Cameron Chapman as Anthony Lockwood, this sort of ne'er-do-well teenage ghost hunter, because you're living in a world, you're in a universe where you have agencies which are taking on the supernatural throughout the London boroughs. Alongside him you've got Ali Haji Hashmati, George Kareem, and you have Ruby Stokes playing Lucy Carlisle. You've got some incredibly good visual effects. The story is solid, and the chemistry on screen between this trio really does get things moving along. It absolutely sings from the opening minutes of the season as a whole, and this is why it baffles me and probably many others as to why it got cancelled. The point with Lockwood and Co is that everybody should see this. This needs to be picked up and it needs to be carried on by a network, an American network cable company. Right, so I loved Lockwood and Co way back in 2023, and it continues to be in my top 10 of TV adaptations of, shall we say, novelized source material. What a wordy way of getting round to the point of, yes, I like the books too. So this is going to be a 4 out of 5 by me on the big old 5 scale, and it's time to dive into that trailer. And hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm doing another deep dive into a Paramount Plus show released in 2022 starring Jon Bernthal. That's the Punisher. That is Michael Brazzato from The Bear, for those people who have seen that excellent Emmy award-winning show. This was American Gigolo. Jon Bernthal really does take this character of Julian Kay by the scruff of the neck and sort of really become psychologically immersed in the character. Gretchen Mol, who plays his ex-lover, Michelle Stratton, she's from Boardwalk Empire, for those who don't know. She adds an intricate element to it, and sort of, but sort of, it's a real push and pull sort of relationship that they have. There's a real darkness, and at the beginning, when Julian is released from prison after a 15-year stretch for a murder which inherently he didn't commit, it's a really gritty and sort of like it's an emotionally charged show that you get. What you've also got, you've got elements of his backstory and history which are delved into in more detail, and this really is, it feels like a thriller, it feels like a murder mystery. It's sort of it's a PI come sort of rites of passage, come sort of like I think some sort of character deep dive, if you were, and for some people that may be not what they were expecting. Back in 2022 when I reviewed this, this really was an epic show for me, and it touched on a great many things which I find interesting in entertainment as a whole. So on that occasion, I gave it a 4 out of 5 in the big old 5 scale, and it's not going to change now. So with all haste, for those people who are looking for things to look for, to watch on Paramount Plus, who are running out of options, who may have looked at it, passed it by, and decided I'll come back to it, maybe now is the time, maybe now. Hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm diving into Alex Rider Season 3, which is currently streaming on Amazon Freevee. Returning as the eponymous hero is Otto Farrant, alongside new additions Kev McAnally, who people may remember from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. You've also got returning show regulars in Stephen Delane as Ian Blunt, and you've got Vicky McClure as Mrs. Jones. And the thing which becomes apparent is that none of the, shall we say, none of the things which made the first and second season work so well have been lost in translation as we hit that third one. The thing I like, and the thing which is ultimately very easy about Alex Rider, is that although it's got a multitude of different plot threads all coming together, it's never dry, it's never cliched, it's well aware of its roots. Right, so I'm going to be giving this a 4 out of 5, and it's a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale because the characters are decent, because the series as a whole has been excellent, the franchise continues, and in truth what you could probably do is you can get a 4th season out of this if you wanted to. And for fans of the series, for fans of the book, hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm diving into the post-apocalyptic world of Fallout. Yes, that's right, the Prime Video much hyped Uber computer game adaptation, which is a collaboration between Amazon, MGM and Bathsheba Studios, alongside executive producer Jonathan Nolan, who also happened to have directed 3 episodes. This is also starring Ella Purnell from Yellow Jackets. You've also got Walter Goggins in there as the Ghoul, he who was behind that Quentin Tarantino movie with Minnie's haberdashery thrown in, as well as having Carl McLachlan, who was June, who was Fire Walk with Me, who was Twin Peaks, yes, David Lynch, Uber cult status as well. Obviously there's a tremendous amount of back history, there's a tremendous amount of lore, there's a tremendous amount of everything within this game, because it's multiple games, it's a universe unto itself. There have been countless DLCs, there's so much depth, there's so much breadth to this universe, that attempting to do a TV adaptation of this was always going to be a challenge. But from the outset, from the kickoff, they've got the visuals correct. This really does feel like a truly well developed and rich, shall we say, universe that's been created. The problem is, and this is a fundamental problem I think for the show as a whole, is that the story is being implanted, it's being impressed upon the universe. The universe, the game itself was inherently open world. It had very few boundaries in terms of what you could do, what you couldn't do, more to the point, and to structurally put some sort of restriction on it to create a dramatic dynamic, it just somehow it doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work, because the performances of the actors and the characters in this show are very good, but it just doesn't have emotional heft, it doesn't have emotional stakes, and ultimately because of that, for me at least, it didn't work. Right, and so it is with a heavy heart that I give this a 3 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. Yes, it's got that tentpole potential, it had that high polished production design, but fundamentally it's just let down by a story which doesn't do justice to every other element which is going on screen. Hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm diving into the old-fashioned spy caper which is Argylle, the Apple original, which is written and directed by Matthew Vaughn and has a star-studded ensemble of character actors including Sam Rockwell, Bryce Dallas Howard, Bryan Cranston, Samuel L. Jackson and bizarrely Dua Lipa, with John Cena popping up in there as well. This is a $200 million movie. It's not a $200 million blockbuster. There is a difference. It doesn't feel like that much money. It doesn't look like that much money. And I'm really hoping some of that cash went to the cast, because they really put some real effort into making this an enjoyable spy romp. Henry Cavill is essentially reduced to a cameo, looks a little bit like eye candy, and he's just doing what Henry Cavill does. He looks good looking and he's a good solid character actor, but he's not given enough to do. Ellie Conway, she is a crime author. She is played by Bryce Dallas Howard, and she gets mixed up in, shall we say, a series of unfortunate events which lead her to be pursued by nefarious forces. And so it is that I come to my rating, and for this, unfortunately, I'm going to be giving it a 3 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale, because as I've said throughout this piece, it is It looks like it should deliver more. It doesn't deliver more. The cast are having fun, but this is not going to redefine the wheel in terms of either action cinema, the spy genre, or even up Matthew Vaughn's game, in my opinion. And again, this is only my opinion, so don't shoot me. Hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm getting all retro once again and I'm diving into Pokerface. That's right, it's the Natasha Lyonne starring, Rian Johnson written, directed, detective pastiche homage to the Columbo series of the 60s, 70s, 80s. When did Peter Falk ever stop? So what became immediately apparent with Pokerface was that you had a very well structured sort of travelogue road trip sort of movie dynamic going on there, and at the centre of this you had Natasha Lyonne as Charlie Cale. This is for people who have not seen the show. Other people who may wish to revisit, you can crack on, but bear in mind you've got all these cameos. So you've got Rhea Perlman, you've got Ron Perlman, you've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt's there, who it ties back to Rian Johnson's original debut film Brick, which again is based on a detective, like a 30s or 40s film noir, but set in like an 80s high school. Very, very good, well worth the watch. What you have with Pokerface, as I said at the beginning, it's very Columbo-esque. It's a series of interlinking stories that she sort of navigates her way through. It's just a very clever piece of television. It deserves all the attention it got. It deserves a lot more, in my opinion, and it deserves not to be forgotten. See, now in retrospect, what you can do is you can either go with your old rating, which I'm not going to, or you can make something new. It's time for a change. I'm going to bump this up to a 5. It's a 5 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. Why? For everything that I've just gone over in the rest of this review. Hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm diving into Dead Boy Detectives. That's right, the co-creation of Neil Gaiman and Matt Wagner, which made its first appearance on HBO Max back in 2021 in a failed television pilot. On that occasion, it had Greg Berlanti, the Uber producer, C&W hitmaker, the man behind Supergirl and numerous others, connected to it, which is why his name appears in the credits of this new Netflix adaptation, which has been headed up by Steve Yockey. These guys exist in the afterlife, they exist outside of the living world, and they are there to help ghosts who are unable to pass over. One of the key things to remember is that they are they're down there intentionally, and they are essentially fugitives from the afterlife. So you've got George Rexfrew as Edwin, who is the sharper Sherlock Holmes element, and then you've got Jaden Reverie, who's playing Charles Rowland, who is sort of brawn and charm and brains and a little bit of everything. So what you then have as well is you have, shall we say, surprising elements. So there is Jen Leon in this, who plays a witch called Esther. It is not giving anything away to say that she is quite pivotal to this show in giving it an extra edge and creating an adversary worthy of these boy detectives. So Dead Boy Detectives gets 3.5, 3.5 on my big old 5 scale. That's right. Why would it only be 3.5? Because it is flawed. There are elements. It's episodic. It's formulaic. It might be well produced, it might have decent ensemble and a decent central pairing, but the fact that you can see what's going to happen besides everything else has to bump it down half a star. To Reel Reviews, where today I'm diving into Love Lies Bleeding. That's right, it's the Sundance Film Festival smash hit from this year, featuring Kristen Stewart, Kathy O'Brien, Ed Harris and Dave Franco. It is an empowerment film from a feminine perspective. Yes, it does explore elements of masculinity in terms of the toxic variety, and also it is a very openly gay film in terms of the sex scenes are very graphic, they're very sensual, but that is far and away beyond the point of the entire exercise, in my opinion. It works fundamentally as a good film, and that is, to be honest, that's all that matters here. It is a well-constructed revenge thriller, as I said in the opening. You've got Kristen Stewart playing Lou. She's a gym owner. Kathy O'Brien comes into town, this sort of like, she's on her way to a bodybuilding competition in Las Vegas, and they connect. There are sparks, fireworks kick off, and a whole cavalcade of events then ensue. Go and see this film for yourself, because it's one of those which is going to be worthy of debate. There's going to be discussion around it. People should have an opinion, because it will be an important film. So after a month of this film sitting in my head before I write a single word, I have come to a conclusion which surprises even me. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. When I first saw it, it didn't really gel, it didn't really stick with me, but on reflection and over a period of weeks, I've just been thinking about it constantly. Hi and welcome to Reel Reviews, where today I'm going to be diving into Still, a Michael J. Fox movie. This is a retrospective on the documentary which got released on Apple TV Plus very recently and is well worth diving into. This is a deep dive into the life of Michael J. Fox. He started out on Family Ties back in the 80s. He came to superstardom very young in the Back to the Future trilogy as Marty McFly, obviously. He then went on to be in Doc Hollywood, and he then had a rejuvenation of sorts in Spin City, moved into television, and then obviously Parkinson's hit him full force. This is the story of a man who, it turns out, is carved out of absolute granite, who still is forging ahead with a life and is taking Parkinson's on with every ounce of power he can muster, either through his self-publicised and so we say publicised foundation and research into Parkinson's disease, but also through his connection within the industry, both in television and film. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. I don't think this is a surprise to anybody, at least it shouldn't be. I'm a big fan of Michael J. Fox in terms of what he brings in terms of his dramatic scope and what he has done in his career, and also the sort of underlining the sort of, there's a dignity and an ability and a poignancy which comes through, because there's no agenda, there's no sheen of there's no pretense. There doesn't appear to be a superficial bone in the guy's body. And as I said at the beginning of this review, he is carved out of granite, and takes falls, takes tumbles, things break. He gets bones broken, brushes it off, moves on, and the documentary continues. So this is why it deserves all the attention it can get. If you don't have a subscription, go out, get that month, get that 3-month Apple TV subscription, because the documentaries aside, there's just so much quality programming, so much stuff of interest, and this is amongst one of in the top 10% in my opinion, because it informs people. You learn something about somebody who is going through the process and is very pragmatic about it, and very transparent and brave. I think that is the thing that comes through most for me, is the sheer bravery and the balls to the wall sort of, you know, brazen, I'm not gonna go quietly into that good night if we're gonna do a bit of Dylan Thomas.